You do need to have $100,000 sitting in the bank to begin building wealth through real estate. Now, back when I first got started, I wish somebody had told me this, because I spent over 2 years trying to save up enough money to buy my first rental property. But here's the thing. You don't need massive amounts of capital to get started. And there are several ways that you could get started investing in real estate with little to no money down. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 ways to do just that. Let's get right into it. 1. Wholesaling. Have you ever seen one of those for sale by owner signs in your neighborhood? That means the homeowner is selling their house themselves, and they typically will do so because they want to sell fast. A lot of these homeowners have already tried to list their home on the market with a real estate agent, and it hasn't sold after a couple months, and they might even be facing foreclosure. Or maybe they'd received an offer from a real estate investor that was lower than they were expecting. So they put their house back on the market, and they list it for sale by owner. This is where you come in. As a wholesaler, you would find these homeowners who are motivated to sell, get them under contract, and then assign that contract to another investor for a fee. To do this, you would simply introduce yourself to the homeowner, write them a contract basically saying, you agree to buy their house for a certain price, and then you assign that contract to another investor for a bigger price, and you keep the difference. So let's say you go out and you meet this motivated seller who wants to sell their house quickly, and they list it for sale by owner for $150,000. You walk up to them while they mowing their lawn, and you strike up a conversation and tell them that you're interested in buying their house, and they say yes. You write them a contract for $150,000. But you add your own language in there which says that you have the right to assign this contract to anyone that you want. Then you take that contract and you shop it around to some private moneylenders or other investors until you find someone willing to buy the contract from you. Say you find an investor who agrees to buy the contract for $140,000. You close the deal and you make the $10,000 difference. This business model is what I call wholesale real estate, and it doesn't cost you anything to get started because you never actually plan to buy the house yourself. Now, it does take a bit of finesse to pull off something like this, because you need to know how to talk to people and persuade them to sign a contract with you. But most of all, you need to know where to find motivated sellers who really need to get rid of their houses fast. Once you've done this a few times, you can build up a network of private moneylenders who will lend you money to buy more houses. And as you continue to grow your network, it won't take you long before you're making 6 figures a year with this business model. 2. House hacking. One of the most common ways that millennials are getting into real estate investing is by putting 3% down on a home and then renting out the extra bedrooms to cover their mortgage payment. This way they get to live in their home for free and even make money on top of that. The key to making this work is to find a home that has at least 3 bedrooms. This way you can rent out 2 of the rooms and use that money to pay your mortgage. But you should also consider properties with 4 or 5 bedrooms because the more bedrooms you have, the easier it will be to find tenants. In many cases, you could probably find a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in your area for around $300,000. Putting 3% down on that house would be $9,000. After closing costs, you're looking at about $12,000. Now, if you can find a roommate who's willing to split that $9,000 down payment with you, then that only comes out to $6,000 per person. This means you could each rent out your own individual bedroom to cover that mortgage payment. And if you can find roommates who pay you $1,000 a month each, then you're getting paid $12,000 a year to live in a house that you own. This makes it possible to live in your house for free and even make money on top of that. And although it may not sound like much when you look at the numbers, it adds up pretty quickly. After paying your mortgage, taxes, insurance, and repairs, you're looking at roughly $800 in profit each month. Now that's roughly $9,000 a year. And if you're doing this in your 20s, that means you're making a 7% return on your investment every single year. Not bad for someone who owns a house and doesn't have a mortgage. 3. Seller financing. There are a lot of homeowners out there who do want to deal with the hassle of listing their house on the market and waiting around for a buyer. What they would rather do is sell their house to someone who pays them directly. This is called seller financing, and it works out well for both parties involved.
Oh.
The homeowner gets to sell their house quickly, without having to deal with the hassles of a real estate agent, and you get to buy the house for a discounted price. But why would a homeowner agree to do this? Well, the answer is simple. Most homeowners do and want to pay capital gains tax on the profit from the sale of their house. Instead, they would rather receive monthly payments from you for a set period of time. And if you're willing to take on that responsibility, then they'll be happy to sell you their house for a fair price. So let's say you find a house for $150,000, but the homeowner is uninterested in selling it to a real estate investor because they do want to pay capital gains tax. That's where seller financing comes in. If you agree to buy the house for $150,000 and pay the homeowner $1,000 a month for the next 15 years, they won't have to pay any capital gains tax on the transaction, so they'll be happy to sell you their house. And once you've made enough money to pay off the mortgage, then you can refinance it and pay off the seller directly. This is a great way to get started in real estate investing because there's no risk involved. No, for partnerships. When I first started investing in real estate, I didn't have enough money to buy a property myself, so I found a partner who did. He agreed to buy a house, and I agreed to help him fix it up and manage it while he went on with his life as a doctor. Basically, I struck a deal with him where I would get a percentage of the profits from the property in exchange for my work. It was a win-win situation for both of us, because he didn't have time to fix up and manage the property himself, and I was able to get started in real estate investing without having to buy a property on my own. The key here is to find someone who's willing to do the heavy lifting for you and share the profits. Maybe you know someone who's good with numbers and understands real estate investing, but they don't have time to do it themselves. Or maybe you know someone who has a lot of time on their hands, but needs help understanding the numbers. Whatever the case may be, find someone who complements your skills and you'll be off to the races. No. 5 hard money lenders. Back when I first got started, I could unfind a private money lender to loan me money to buy my first rental property because I didn't have enough experience. So I turned to a hard money lender who didn't care about my credit score or my experience. They only cared about one thing. Would I be able to pay them back? Because hard money lenders aren't concerned about whether or not you qualify for a loan. They charge higher interest rates than banks, and they require you to put a large down payment on the property, usually between 20 and 50%. The benefit here is that they don't care about your credit score, your debt-to-income ratio, or any of that other qualifying stuff that banks are so concerned with. In fact, they don't even require you to have steady income or proof of funds. All they want to know is that you're serious about buying a house and paying them back. If you're able to convince them of that, then they'll loan you whatever you need to buy the house. Now, the downside to this is that the interest rates are extremely high, which means you'll be paying a lot of money to borrow their money. However, if you're only using it for a short period of time, it's not such a big deal because you'll be able to pay it off quickly. And if you're planning on holding onto the property for a long time, then you shouldn't worry too much about the interest rate because it won't affect you anyway. Leveraging your credit. The last way to get started investing in real estate with very little money out of pocket is by leveraging your personal credit. In order to do this, you'll need to have a good credit score, which is generally considered to be 700 or higher. You'll also need to have a low credit utilization ratio, which means you don't use a lot of your available credit. Finally, you'll need to have a low debt-to-income ratio, which means you don't have a lot of monthly debt payments. If you have good credit, then you can go to the bank and ask them for a loan. Well, tell them you want to borrow some money to buy a house and see what they offer you. Most banks will be happy to lend you money at low interest rates because you have a good credit score and they are confident that you'll be able to pay it back. Now, the downside to this is that you'll need to have good credit in order to qualify for a low interest rate loan. However, if you're willing to put in the work to improve your credit score, then it's definitely worth it because you'll be able to borrow money at such low interest rates. Plus, if you're planning on holding onto the property for a long time, then the interest rate won't affect you anyway. There you have it. 5 different ways that you could start investing in real estate with very little money out of pocket. So if you're ready to get started building wealth through real estate, then I encourage you to check out some of the other videos on my channel. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.